All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have a brand new guest joining us. His name is George Lizos. He has written an incredible book called Secrets of Greek Mysticism, a modern guide to daily practice with the Greek gods and goddesses. And so, George, welcome to the podcast. Your work is fascinating, and I've been looking forward to this.
Hi, Glenn. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So before we go into the book, there's so much to explore. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, especially for people who are new to you and your work, which I suspect is probably a lot of our listeners. Who are you? What do you do? Tell us what we need to know.
So I'm a spiritual teacher, I'm an author, and I work with people primarily to help them find and follow their life purpose. And I use different tools to do so, from energy healing to like psychic readings, to working with the Greek gods and goddesses, to providing really practical tools to help them follow their purpose, but also working with like psychotherapy and psychotherapeutic tools to help them release fears and limiting beliefs that prevent them from moving forward.
I love that. So what is your spiritual background? I'm curious about that. Because we mentioned before we record, I told you in our emails that I grew up in an evangelical fundamentalist world, which we'll talk more about, I'm sure, in a moment. But I'm interested, real quick, what is your spiritual background? Like, where do you come from?
Gosh, so many things, but it all...
How much time do we have, right?
It's like the short version is it started from also growing up Christian, growing up in Cyprus. Like Greece and Cyprus both are dominated by Orthodox Christianity. So that was religion I was brought into. I was baptized as an Orthodox Christian, and I was deep into the religion to the point that at school in religious knowledge class, I would get 105 out of 100 in tests because I was so eager, and I would write more. I would go to the church and chant. I would participate in everything, and I was really deep into it until the point when I realized that I was gay and that the church wouldn't accept that. And it really created a lot of shame within me, to the point that 2 years of trying to change what I was born to be, I almost tried to take my life. Wow. So that was a turning point for me, where I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to choose to live, and I'm going to choose to find spiritual path that really accepts who I am. And that's when my spiritual exploration started. And it started from so many different things. I went from feng shui to Wicca and witchcraft, to working with angels, to trying meditation, life coaching, mindfulness work, hypnosis, past life regressions, psychic abilities. Yeah. And then eventually that led me to come back to the religion of my ancestors, the ancient Greek religion, and really dive deep into earth-based spirituality and the connection with the earth.
Wow, that's fascinating. You know, you seem like you have dabbled in like a lot of things. That's what I like I see this coming through in the book, that you're bringing so much perspective in, and I could tell that this is something that it's not like you just researched it and you wrote a book, but you've lived it, and you're like writing about your own discoveries, and you're walking us into those discoveries so that we can implement them into our own lives. So I love it.
Exactly.
All right, so the book, real quick, where I'm coming from, we've kind of talked about it, but just to kind of set the stage for our listeners as well, because many of them come from the same place. I grew up in this evangelical fundamentalist world. You know, it's our way or it's the highway. Jesus is God. No one else is. You know, gods and goddesses are frauds. They're idols. End of story. And I went to Bible college. I went to seminary. I pastored a church. Like, I was really deep in this world. And whenever it came to the Greek gods and goddesses, which often came up in our New Testament courses in school, you know, we were told these are false gods. You know, they're idols. The Greeks were kind of crazy because they had hundreds, maybe even thousands of gods that they worshipped, and you know, they needed the Christians to straighten them out with the truth, and that's it. And so for me, like, it's always felt like, and I almost felt like ignorant while I was reading this book and making my way through this material, but this is what I was taught. But I always felt like the Greeks had like a very childish or irrelevant religious belief system. You know, their gods are just myths, they're idols, and they're clueless. And honestly, I mean, obviously I've evolved in my thoughts about the divine from back then, but I haven't, like I said before we record, I haven't really thought much about this material until I got your book. And I was like, wow, there's like a whole nother world here that I had no idea existed. And so that said, we are your students today, all of us, our listeners as well. Uh, like I said, many people have heard similar stuff that I've heard, not very much about the Greek gods and goddesses. So there's three sections in the book, and we can look at maybe each of those individually in a moment. But first, can you give us like maybe an overview of this book? Like, what can people expect to find if they pick up this book? Who is this book for? And like, what is the intended goal for your readers of the book?
And what you just said about how you perceive the ancient Greek gods and goddesses is very much how I've learned to perceive them as well growing up. So
Yeah,
it's not very different because
that
we
makes me feel much less stupid.
yeah. The irony is that the modern world accepts the Greeks as like these pioneers when it comes to democracy, theater,
Hmm.
the arts, science. They got it all right, but religion.
Right.
And
They
that's
messed
the
that up.
first. They messed that up. Like they were so smart and intelligent and everything else, but they were so dumb when it comes to the religion to just praise lifeless idols. That, of course, wasn't the case. What
Yeah.
happened was that's the history of the world, the history of religion. When something overtakes something, they have to demonize it. They have to turn it different. They have to replace it with something else. So the rhetoric of the Christian church in the beginning times, during the Byzantine years, was that these are demonic entities, these are lifeless idols, like this is the true God. And they successfully managed to convert people away from it
Mhm.
and turn them into these myths. And we study them as myths, but they're not just that. So, what I wanted to do with the book is to teach the true essence of the Greek gods and goddesses and the ancient Greek religion. And first
Mm.
of all, tell the world that there is an ancient Greek religion in the first place, and it's not just myths. Because I became so tired with reading books that are about the ancient Greek quote unquote religion and realizing all they talked about was the myths of
Mhm.
the ancient Greek gods. And I'm like, the mythology draws from theology, but not the other way around.
Mm.
There is depth in the theology that is not included in the myths. The myths were created by highly spiritual people at the time, usually in the mystery schools, who wanted to encapsulate a lot of information and wisdom of the gods in a symbolic allegorical way. So the
Mhm.
myths are meant to be interpreted in a symbolic allegorical way rather than taken as they are. For example, Ares is not the god of war. Ares is the god of bravery and courage
Mm.
and fighting for what you're passionate about, because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is fight. When you're out and about and you're getting attacked by someone, what are you going to do? Send them love and light or pray? No,
Mm.
you're going to fight back and protect yourself. That is Ares energy.
Mm.
But of course, when we read the myths, it's all about killing people and the gods like quarreling with one another. So in the book, I introduce the Greek cosmology and theology, starting from what are the gods, who are the gods,
Mhm.
talking about the creation of the universe and the evolution of the soul, so that it is a step-by-step system that anyone who's interested can use to follow and live a virtuous life. Because at the end of the day, the ancient Greek religion has to do with guiding people to living virtuous lives from the moment they're born until the moment they die. What
Mm.
happens before birth and after death, that's not the realm of religion. It's a realm of philosophy. And the ancient Greeks had many philosophical schools that talked about different ideas about reincarnation and what happens before or after.
Mm.
So it is a complete system to knowing and practicing, most importantly, the ancient Greek religion.
Yeah. You said earlier about how Christian church tends to demonize things that are different and creates a lot of fear around that. And that's something I really found in my journey, because growing up in that world, there were so many things I was told to stay away from. And I just stayed away from it because I was the good Christian soldier, who was just going to do what I was told because I wanted to be accepted in that world and I wanted to rise to the top and be a pastor and do all this different things. So I just said, okay, that's what I'm going to stay away from. But now I'm in this place where for the last, 5, 6 years, I've been deconstructing, rethinking my faith and stuff. And I've gone into the things I've been told to stay away from when I was younger, things like tarot, things like oracle cards,
Yeah.
the Gnostic scriptures have been really interesting to me. And I'm like going into these things, I'm like, I don't understand like all the fear that was generated around these things. Like these things haven't been scary to me at all. Like, I still consider myself to be a Christian in some senses, but I feel like these things have only enhanced my love for my faith. They haven't derailed it in any way. I mean, it's definitely taken me away from that very narrow stream that I was handed, which is probably why all the fear was generated around it. But I feel like all these things, and now including your book with the gods and goddesses, I'm like, this stuff is not, this doesn't feel as dangerous as I was told that it was.
Yeah, because I believe personally
Hmm.
that all religions are valid. I don't believe in one religion for everybody.
Yeah.
I believe that religions are like maps,
Mhm.
and they all the maps lead to the same destination, to source, to love, whatever you want to call it. So it's just a matter of knowing who you are, your
That's right.
idiosyncrasy, your temperament, and picking the map that works for you and following that without making the map your religion.
That's right.
Once you've made the map the religion, then you've lost the game,
Yeah.
because you're losing the fact that it's just a map leading you somewhere,
That's right.
not the actual religion. So dogma is what ruins it for me. And what I
Yeah.
love about the ancient Greek
Mm.
religion is that it's not dogmatic. The ancient Greeks were not rejecting other religions, they were taking them in. And that's why there was a lot of syncretism, spiritual syncretism going on in the ancient times, where new people would come and bring their own gods and they would welcome them in.
Mm. Have you heard of Richard Rohr?
No.
No, Richard Rohr is a he's a like a mystical, I think he's Franciscan priest. He says that see if I get this right, that religion is kind of like there's a, if you imagine a large stream out in the wilderness, and we're all out there, and we all have our individual cups, and we're dipping our cups into the stream to take a drink. But I say those cups are like our religions, but I say to you, well, my cup is the only cup that can satisfy your thirst. And you're like, no, my cup can only satisfy your thirst. Meanwhile, we're all dipping out of the same river and we all have access to the same water. It comes from the same place. Our cups are just different things that are holding that water. And I always thought that was such an interesting way to approach it, because it's true. Like, we're all dipping into this great cosmic river and we're coming up with these different ideas. And in a sense, all of our ideas fit in there somewhere. If we could just see that, we can all just get along as opposed to fighting over
Yeah.
who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah, and that's the beauty to me of the philosophical schools that the ancient Greeks had,
Yeah.
Aristotelianism, Platonism, etc., because they all belong to the same central religion.
Hmm.
So they all coexisted, but they all had different beliefs about the afterlife. For
Yeah.
example, Orphism believes in reincarnation, but the Stoics did not,
Yeah.
and they still coexisted. And I
That's
think
right.
that was beautiful, being able to do so, to do that.
Love it. All right. For part one of the book is called Nature of the Gods. And one of the things you talk about, and you just mentioned this a little while ago, but maybe we can go into it a little bit deeper, is the difference between theology and mythology and how these things are not the same. And I think that's an important distinction to make, because I've heard people use those terms interchangeably. And in my mind, I'm like, I think those are two different things. So I'm wondering if you could just take us a little bit deeper into the difference between theology, mythology, and why that is so important in this topic of the gods and the goddesses.
Yeah, so I introduced mythology a little bit. Now let me
Hmm.
talk a little bit about theology and then connect it.
Hmm.
So when we think about the concept of the theology, the cosmology of the ancient Greeks, we have the source, higher intelligence, true being, as the ancient Greeks called it, higher consciousness. In the Christian mindset, you would think of it as God.
Hmm.
But the characteristic of source, the true being, is that it's unchangeable, it's everlasting, it's pure, it's loving, it's everything there is and there isn't. It was never created, it has always been there. It exists, everything that there is. It's literally the all.
Hmm.
And then from there, we have the gods. The gods, they are manifestations, multiplications, extensions of the all. And in the book, I call the all the universe with a capital U.
Hmm.
And then the physical universe, I call the cosmos, just
Hmm.
to create the separation of the universe with a capital U, the all, higher intelligence, true being, and cosmos, which is the manifested part
Hmm.
of the all. And cosmos comes from the Greek word kosmima, which means jewel,
Hmm.
because it's that part of source that attained perfection.
Hmm.
And it is the cosmos as we know it, the physical universe as we know it. Now, the gods, they are universal laws and functions. Think of the law of gravity. That is a universal law. Think of the law of form. that is the law belonging to Aphrodite, not belonging, that is Aphrodite, for example. She think of Aphrodite in the energy that is when the waves crash on the beach, and that new form that's created there, that's Aphrodite. Think of bees pollinating flowers, that energy of creation, that's Aphrodite. Think of people having sex, that energy created, that's Aphrodite. She gives form to things. That's why in Cyprus, where I'm from, one of her epithets was Aphrodite Morpho, meaning Aphrodite who gives form to. So all the gods, they rule after a universal function or a universal law. And yes, there are thousands, if not millions of gods, as many as there are universal laws and functions, and we don't know them. So when we're really praying to Aphrodite or to Apollo or to Poseidon, we're not praying to a statue or to like a physical being. We are praying, and I use the word prayer with quotation marks because it's affirmative praying, in the sense that the gods are not outside of us and we have to go out there and have a transactional relationship with them to get something from them. We are in the ocean of the gods. We're already swimming in the ocean of the gods. The gods are everywhere because the universe is everywhere, because we're part of that universe. And it's just a matter of reaching out there, affirming the grace already given to us so that we can realize we've already received it. So that is theology. And then when it comes to mythology, they are stories that the ancient Greeks made up to really understand these high-level concepts.
It's funny, I'm starting to see, I mean, talking about this in terms of the gods and goddesses, I'm starting to see this same kind of thinking in how I read the Bible and how I read a lot of the stories in the Bible. Because coming from the world I came from, the Bible is very literal. Everything happened the way that it says it happened. Like it's more of like a science/history book than it is anything else. And I stuck with that for the longest time, and then I really started to kind of dig into it and read, kind of expand my reading. I'm like, yeah, I don't really know if this is as historical and scientific as I've been told that it is. And now I'm seeing these things as like, especially in the Old Testament, even stuff in the New Testament, but stories that people were telling to make specific points about their theological understandings. And so I think a lot of these stories are mythological at the heart, not meaning that they're not true, but they are very true in the sense that they hold very deep truths that are wired into all of humanity. And I think that when I started to view the Bible that way, my appreciation for the text and for these stories exploded like exponentially, because now all of a sudden it's not just this literal thing that I have to believe, but it's this story that has many different angles that can speak to me in many different ways. That's kind of the parallel I'm seeing between the work that you're doing with the gods and goddesses and then the work that I'm coming from and you're coming from as well, from the Bible in our past.
Agreed, because we refer to the Bible as Christian mythology. So that's how I've heard it in my community, like Christian mythology, like the Bible, because there are stories that hold like messages. And this understanding, by the way, I feel helps bridge science and Christianity, because they've always been at war. But when you see those stories as myths that hold important truths, then it all makes sense. Like science like doesn't disagree with it, and vice versa.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember sitting in like fourth grade. I was in a private Christian school. We're in a Bible class, and my teacher was telling us about the story of Genesis and giving us all this information about how the earth was only like 6,000 years old. And I feel like I've learned other places that like dinosaurs existed like millions of years ago. Like it wasn't connecting to me. And I remember having this thought even as a fourth grader, like this text that they're teaching us feels like it's much bigger and much more important than these trivial facts that are being given to us. Like, I remember thinking, like, if this book has lasted the test of time over the course of thousands of years to find its way onto our shelves, and it's important enough for us to be studying it in a school as a fourth grader, there's got to be more to it than this. And I feel like this work that you're doing, that we're just talking about, is opening up a whole nother world to these texts. That's so important.
Thank you. That was my purpose when it comes to like writing it, to like tell people that, you know what, they're not just these lifeless idols. There is essence behind that. And there are spiritual lessons that we can work with to live better lives.
That's right. That's right. All right. Part 2 of the book is kind of getting to know the gods, and you take us through and you introduce us to these 12 different gods, kind of like a I don't know, like a crash course maybe in descriptions of the gods and different
Yes.
journal prompts and even like hymns that you can that help us connect to them. So I was wondering if you could maybe talk to us about, is there like a specific one of these gods or goddesses that you personally most connect with? And maybe like a little bit about like what that connection looks like in your daily life. And then can you maybe tell us about that God a little bit? So give our listeners like a little bit of a taste of what they might be able to find in particular in this section of the book.
Yes. So basically, what I've done in that section is I introduced the main 12 gods of Olympus. And there's a
Hmm.
reason why there are 12 gods, is because it's based on this idea of how the universe is formed. There is balance in that form. And I talk about the 4 steps of creation according to Neoplatonic philosopher Salutius, who talked about the creation gods, the animation gods, the harmonization gods, and the maintenance gods. And there are 3 gods in each category representing the beginning, the middle, and the end of that part of the step.
Hmm.
And therefore, 3 times 4 is 12 gods. And therefore, that creates the structure of the universe, the gods that we most need on the planet to follow our purpose and grow on our spiritual journeys. So in each chapter, I introduce how I met the God, because the way this journey started, I took my best friend and I'm like, let's go on a temple hopping trip to Athens, to Greece. We're going to rent a car. We're going to go to different temples, meditate with the gods, and see what comes out. So I start with a story around that.
Yeah.
And then I talk about the true essence of the gods, not about the mythology. I refer to mythology sometimes, but I share what the true essence is. Then I share something that I believe is so important, the virtues of each god. And this draws from ethical philosophy. All the different philosophical schools in the ancient times, they talked about the virtues, how to live a virtuous life. They called it arete, which basically means virtue in Greek. And for example, Apollo's virtues are harmony and sincerity. Demeter's virtues are endurance and prudence. Many of these virtues are found in Christianity as well, but they were changed a lot. And sometimes I talk about the difference between the Christian virtue and the ancient Greek virtue, because humility, for example, is something that that the Christians believe, but that was not a very important thing in the ancient times. In ancient Greece, it was all about pride, but it's a different type of pride that's not arrogance. It's like being proud of who you are.
Yeah.
Then I talk about the symbols of the god. I talk about the Orphic hymns. These are ancient hymns that survived the course of time, that were used for religious purposes to connecting with the gods. I have journal prompts and meditation to work and meet the god. So this is what people get in each chapter. And then when it comes to my favorite god, I believe we all have a guardian god or goddess. Now, basically, this is the kind of energy or the law, the universal law that we most need in our lives right now to follow our purpose. And for those of you who believe in reincarnation, to assist us through our many lives as we move on. I feel that my guardian god is Apollo, because his qualities of harmony, of sincerity, are mostly aligned with what I'm aiming to do in this lifetime. However, we can have different gods and goddesses that accompany us throughout our lives, helping us learn different lessons that we are supposed to learn. For a long period of time, I worked with Aphrodite because I had to work on self-acceptance, accepting my body, dealing with sexual trauma. So I had to deal with that, and Aphrodite's essence and energy helped me accept that. Aphrodite is all about embracing all aspects of love. You know, Christianity specifically, there is a lot of attention placed on spiritual love, agape, and connecting with God. Now, that's also an aspect of Aphrodite, and we can see this by the epithets of Aphrodite, the adjectives. So Aphrodite Urania, which means celestial, is all about that spiritual love of oneness and agape. But we also have Aphrodite Philomedes, which means smiling Aphrodite, which is all about like flirtatious love. We also have Aphrodite Pandemos, which is basically sexual love, the sexual aspect of Aphrodite. And we have a self-loving aspect of Aphrodite. That's all about adorning yourself and loving your body. So she doesn't distinguish between different types of love. She accepts all of them. And that was something that I needed at some point in my life, that I felt a lot of shame around sex, because that's something that was instilled in me by Christianity. Sex is shameful, gay sex is a sin.
Yeah.
So Aphrodite helped me embrace all aspects of love and realize that, you know what? Spiritual love is not more important than sex.
Yeah.
Both can be important when you realize that sex is sacred.
Yeah.
So do you see how I work with the different gods and goddesses? Of course, I honor all of them through the year,
Yeah.
but there are different gods that we need at different points in time, given what it is we're working towards.
Yeah. That's interesting. That number 12 is interesting because I mean, you think about with the gods throughout the course of the year, there's 12 months in a year, right?
Yeah,
And 12 reminds me of the 12 disciples, which reminds me of the
yeah,
12 tribes of Israel, right? It's like that number 12 seems to be very important, almost like the number 4, because there's four gospels, there's four seasons, right? So it's interesting how these things all tie together. And if you think about what you just explained to us regarding the gods and goddesses with those numbers, and you think about the symbolism of those numbers in those different aspects, whether it's the Bible, whether it's the calendar year, whatever, you can see a lot of different overlaps. And I think that's really, really interesting stuff, how those numbers are wired into our day-to-day
yeah.
life. Yeah.
Now, a lot of the overlap has to do with when a new religion comes to overtake the old one, it's easier to adopt what's
Right.
already
Yeah. I'll
there.
just use that.
Like, for example, with the birth of Jesus, with Christmas being on the 25th
Mhm.
of December, there is a very specific reason behind that. According to the ancient Greek wheel of the year, we celebrate the winter solstice, which we call that triesperon. That literally translates to 3 nights, because between the 20th and the 23rd of December, the night, the length of the night and the length of the day stay the same.
Mm. Yep.
And then on the 24th, 25th, the day starts growing again. So we have the birth of the sun,
Yep.
which we call sun mass, for example. You call it sun mass, it's the birth of the sun.
Mm.
And in the ancient Greek mythology, it's the birth of Hercules, the
Yep.
god of the baby sun.
Mm.
And then Christianity came over and like, okay, that makes sense to put Jesus's birth here.
Yep. Yep.
Because they're already celebrating that. So it's going to be an easier transition.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because that's similar pattern in the Celtic tradition as well. Is that
Exactly.
the birth of the sun and how the Christians kind of came in and said, "Oh, they're doing that. That kind of makes sense. We'll talk about the birth of the sun."
Yeah, because all pagan religions, most of them at least, they're very similar, because all
Yeah,
they've done is they conceptualize their relationship with the universe and the earth
yeah,
in different ways by
very earth-based.
personifying those energies.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. All right, so it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong. This could be a far out thought, but it seems to me like these gods, especially these 12 that you share, it feels almost like when I was reading your book, like these gods are like snapshots of the human experience. Like there's nothing in them really that I haven't seen at work in my life or like in my world, like at some point. And so it almost feels like these gods, like the maybe one of the purposes that they serve, could it be to help me like better understand myself? It's almost like I'm looking into a mirror when I look at them. And then when I study them, like when I meditate on them, I can almost come to deeper realizations about my own humanity and my own being, which has gotten me in trouble with my former tribe because that's kind of how I see Jesus these days, is how I see him. I used to see Jesus like this divine figure that I had to pray to and worship, but now I see him as it's almost like the divine, the universe, whatever took up residence in this person as the universe does in all of us. And in some special way, when I look at the stories of Jesus and I meditate on them, I come to deeper realizations about myself. And as I was reading your book, reading about these different gods, I'm like, I see a similar pattern there that I now see at work in Jesus. Am I far off? Am I kind of on the right track?
No, no, that what you're saying makes sense, because there are 6 male gods and
Hmm.
6 female goddesses. They represent different aspects of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. These two different sides that are really 2 sides of the same coin
Yeah.
that form the divine.
Mm.
And there are different aspects of feminine energy that we need that is already within us, and different aspects of masculine energy that are already within us. And each god helps us embrace and accept the different side. For example, Artemis or Diana in the Roman calendar, very similar energies. She's the side of the divine feminine energy that is uncontrolled, that's raw, that's pure. When you think of women giving birth, that
Hmm.
energy, that's
Hmm.
Artemis. When you think of the transition from puberty to adulthood, that energy, that's raw energy, that's Artemis. When you think of the experience of death, that transition, that's Artemis. It's uncontrolled energy, unbridled feminine energy. And then you have Hera, the queen of Olympus, who is basically all the female goddesses together. She represents motherhood. It's a more like controlling kind of feminine energy that's also needed. That's also part of feminine energy. And then you have Athena, who's all about wisdom and also turning knowledge into action. She's all about strategizing. Okay, what is a strategy that I need to accomplish something? Like she helps you create that framework that you can then follow. Then you have Hestia, that's all about the hearth, the center of everything. So different qualities of feminine energy, and the same is true for the male gods. Different qualities that we need to follow our lives. And what the ancient Greeks have done is they've taken these universal laws and they've brought them down to a physical level so that they could relate with them and embody their energy through the virtues by practicing those virtues so that they could better their lives and live virtuous lives.
Yeah. Wow. I love this. All right. Part 3 is about connecting with the gods. And I feel like for me,
Yes.
and maybe even for our listeners, this is the hardest one to grasp, given like our backgrounds, because again, being taught there's one God, Jesus is God. We're taught to pray to him, listen to him. This idea of connecting with these Greek gods, it's like that Christian soldier that will forever live inside of me somewhere, at times raises up his fist and says, "No, you can't go down that path because it's taking you away from, the truth." And I'm wondering, like, what does it look like to bring all of this into like normal everyday reality? Like, think of the person who's listening who grew up in that world that we grew up in, and they're open to all these different things now, and they're trying to wrestle with it. They're working a 9 to 5 job, they're raising kids, they're trying to pay a mortgage. Like, what does it look like to bring this material into everyday life, to maybe
Yeah.
begin to wade into the waters of maybe connecting with one, two, or all of these gods over the course of the next year?
So obviously in the book, I talk about the Greek wheel of the year, different rituals that we can
Yep.
do, setting up altars and carrying out a new moon ritual, a full moon ritual, etc. Now, this could be a little bit too advanced for someone just starting out and
Yeah.
especially going through this kind of upbringing. So the easiest way to approach this subject is by connecting with nature, because the ancient Greek religion is a nature-based religion. These gods, they are earth-based deities. They are representations of everything we live like every single day. So in each of the gods chapter, I have a section called Connecting with the Gods Out in Nature. Because of this, I wanted to make this really practical. Let's say I don't have time to do any rituals. I'm afraid to go into the rituals because I feel like it's the work of the devil, because that's what I've been taught.
Right.
Like, what can I do? As I'm commuting to work, and I'm going outside and I see 2 pigeons chasing one another. Ooh, that's the energy of love, that Aphrodite, the flirtatious aspect of Aphrodite. Or I see a bee pollinating flower, again, Aphrodite. Or there's a thunder outside. That is the divine semen of Zeus. It's this energy of creation that's coming down, and it's bringing electricity into the earth, and it does something to the planet. It brings energy into the earth. That is Zeus's energy. Or I see someone getting bullied at work and I'm like, you know what? Don't bully this person. Like, standing up for someone. Aries energy. Okay. You go out in nature and you go off the path of the park if it's safe, and you find yourself in, like, surrounded by flowers and plants that have not been cultivated, that is completely raw, that connects you with the energy of Artemis. You turn within, you put a hand on your heart and you feel the beating of your heart, and you realize and appreciate how much gratitude you have of your heart, that it's beating and pumping your body with blood and oxygen, keeping you alive. That's Hestia. And you you make food in the evening for your kids. That's Hephaestus' creative energy, of like really practical creative energy. You go out there, you see the crops out in nature, and you appreciate the abundance of the earth and how it's providing for you. That's Demeter. You look at the sun in the morning and you appreciate the light washing over your face and warming you up, and the harmony that exists in the universe, that every single day all the laws are working amazing, and you can trust in the law of gravity, and you know that you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're not going to fall upwards, because the law of gravity ensures that you fall downwards. That is Apollo, the harmony of the universe. You appreciate the moment that every single day there's something more to learn spiritually that allows you to learn something and grow on your path. Hermes, you make a strategy plan for your startup, or you contribute to a conversation at work that allows the business to go forward. That is Athena's strategic essence. You want to change your life and do something else, and you want to call upon the energy of Poseidon, change and transformation. And you take care of your kids. Hera, I just went through all the gods and day-to-day practices we can use to connect with them.
It seems like, and I've heard you say this, I think I've heard you say it in another place. Maybe I read it in the book. I don't remember. It came from you somewhere, but you said something along the lines of like, you're not out to convert anybody. You're not looking to deconvert anybody. You're not looking to like, this is the way over here, but it's almost like you're presenting this material to us in a way that it can enhance your own belief system, like whatever your belief system is, whatever religion you find yourself most aligned with, this stuff doesn't need to take you away from that, but can almost enhance it, because everything you just talked about, like I could see myself, especially even in my Christian life 10 years ago, doing those very same things in connection with Jesus or Yahweh or whatever. But I can take these principles from these gods and goddesses and I can find them at work in my Christianity, and that can help me just enhance that faith system in a way that is bigger than maybe I could have done apart from that. So I think what you're doing, what I'm trying to say is that you're just integrating things into, you're not trying to take us away from something.
Because if I was trying to be dogmatic and convert people to something, then I would be doing what has been done to me.
Yeah.
So because I've deconstructed that dogma out of my life, and I've been a new ager essentially for so many years, who am I to come and say, people, you know what? No, this is the right way to go. There's no right way to go. You choose your own way and take what makes sense to you and adopt it, but don't appropriate it, appreciate it, do your research, learn from the people who practice it, and then respect it while you do so, and use it to enhance your own practice. If Christianity is the right path for you, go for it. There was a time, especially when I was transitioning from Christianity to like different other things, Jesus was part of my spiritual team. I had, and I still have them, icons of archangels, Michael and Gabriel and Uriel, like the Byzantine icons, because that's what the Orthodox Christians celebrate. I had them in my room like 3 years ago. And I still worked with the energy of Jesus from my own New Age perspective back then. Of course, I don't do this now because I've stepped into this world, but I don't, I critique it, but I don't judge or reject that path, because I know it has helped and it's helping many people do this work and be virtuous, loving people in the world. And at the end of the day, that's the whole point of this.
Yeah. And that's a thing that has come up a lot on our podcast recently with a lot of different guests. Just this idea that when we do deconstruct out of that more conservative fundamentalist mindset and we go to a more progressive or new age, whatever kind of mindset, it's very easy, if we're not careful, to take that fundamentalist attitude with us, but just bring it into another camp, right? Because now I can become progressive, but I can be just as fundamentalist in my progressive beliefs as I try to convert everybody from over there to over here, just like I was doing when I was back there, trying to convert everybody over there. So I've had to check that in myself, because it's very easy to bring that, I know all the answers and this is the way that it is mentality with me. And now I'm in this place where I'm more trying to embrace mystery as opposed to trying to find the answers to things, which has really helped me, I think, in my faith.
Being inquisitive, I think, is the way to go when it comes to everything.
Yeah. Can I ask you one more question?
Yes.
Okay, real quick. Because I'm wondering if people might be wondering this too. Like when you commune with these gods, when you talk to these gods, like what does that look like for you? Because again, coming from that background, like when you go to pray to Jesus or you pray in the church, like you have this kind of image maybe in your mind of like a god that you're praying to. Like, is that what it is for you with these gods and goddesses when you're talking to them, or do you have more of just you're talking to the universe? Like, what does that look like for you? Like, if you could break that down.
So the Christian understanding is that God is outside and created the universe, and therefore you need to ask God and pray to God so that you go to heaven and you don't go to hell. The Greek understanding is very different. The gods are not outside of us. They are part of us. They're part of the universe. They are the universe, and we're part of the universe. So you're not asking them for something. When we're praying, we're really appreciating them. That's why, and this can be seen like in the way we embody prayer. The Christian way to pray is to look down, humility, and just look down, essentially. When it comes to like the Greek way of praying, is you extend your arms up to the sky and you look up to the heavens, up to the sky, and you're appreciating. And we always start with thank you. So we don't say, please bring something to me. Thank you for bringing me abundance, blah, 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 blah. But the way you experience that in your body, the way you commune, that's actually very similar to most spiritual traditions around the world who have altars. Like Christianity has includes altars in their practice as well, which is a space, a defined space usually, that is a bridge between the profane world and the sacred world. It creates an opportunity for you to transcend the profane and come into a place where you can feel something more, where you can become something more. And it has to do with the elements you place on it, because as humans, we need to feel something. So you can light up a candle, you can have incense burning, you can have a statue of a god or a goddess that I'm going to be praying to or connecting with more like, and different symbols of that deity that help me connect to that vibration, that essence. And then I read the Orphic hymn, or I just freely talk to the God, thank you for blah, 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 blah. And in that moment, you feel this sense of connection. There's no way to describe it. And I feel it's very similar to a Christian praying to Jesus, where they feel this sense of openness, expansiveness within their heart, within their soul. That is the help already given. But it's a different perspective of, we're not praying for something. It's not a transactional relationship to be saved from something, because there is no hell or heaven from the Christian, so from the ancient Greek perspective. There's an evolution of the soul through many lifetimes, according to certain philosophical schools. But it's all about affirming and accepting and thanking the gods for help already given.
Wow. George, we're just about out of time, but this has been so helpful. I have so much to chew on and think about. So thank you for your work, and thank you for taking time for us.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for taking the time to read and ask such powerful questions. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And real quick, where can people go to maybe interact more with you and your work online? Any particular social media places or websites you want to direct us to?
So I basically live on Instagram at George Lizos. My website is georgelizos.com, and you can learn more about the book at greekmysticism.com.
Awesome. I'll put the links in the show notes, and maybe we can do this again sometime.
I would love to.
Awesome.
It's real.